Assalamualaikum everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today for this fireside chat. I'm not going to go into introduction of National Incubation Center because I see a lot of familiar faces, so I'm sure you're already aware of it. And also in the interest of time, I'm gonna skip that, but I'm gonna come straight to our guest over who's traveled all the way from Dubai over here, and he's been very kind enough that you can say that almost he just landed at 7 a.m. in the morning, and he's come straight over here, right? So thank you so much, Ibrahim. So Ibraheem Manna is MD for global markets at Careem. I would now request Ibrahim to maybe give more detailed introduction and you take us through journey to begin with.
Sure, thank you. So, guys, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ibraheem Manna. I'm originally I'm Jordanian, Jordanian Palestinian. I have been an entrepreneur since the age of 18 years old. I graduated from school, started three different startups, mostly in logistics and e-commerce. I've been part of an incubator, so I know exactly how you guys feel in an incubator. And I joined Careem very early on when there was barely 30 colleagues back then. So my role consisted of launching markets and at some point also fixing markets, right? Because there was a lot of markets and flags planted that needed like a serious revamp. So I had to go in. And sometimes, fixing is actually harder than building from scratch. So I go in, put the right plan in place, strategy, hire the right colleagues to take the lead in those markets, and then we started seeing those markets flourish, right? And then after launching all of the markets that needs to be launched, I started looking after the bigger markets such as Saudi, Egypt, Pakistan, UAE, and I have been actively traveling to Pakistan for the past couple of months. So I'm honored and humbled by the amount of hospitality that I have found in this beautiful country.
Right. Thank you, Ibrahim. So Ibrahim, my first question would be something that we cannot get over with or cannot get rid of. It's about the impact of COVID, right? So
Yeah.
before COVID, we were moving very fast towards sharing economy, right? Ubers and Careems were happening,
Yes.
right? And then all of a sudden, with COVID, we moved back to the isolation economy. Netflix and Zooms, they become the more prominent,
Yeah.
startups. So would like to hear about you that how did this journey affected Careem? How did Careem pivot in this journey? And how do you see going forward? How do you see this impacting sharing economy? So this is something that would like to hear your views about.
Yeah. Look, there's two ways of looking at COVID, and definitely it's an awful thing, right? A lot of people lost their life. A lot of people were separated from their loved ones. So I can't argue and say like COVID is like a good thing, right? But as an entrepreneur, you always need to look at like the two sides of the story. A challenge becomes an opportunity, and if you're not able to see it this way, you're not going to be able to seize those opportunities, right? So yes, we did have a very big impact on our core business, right? So our ride hailing business took a very big hit, specifically at the beginning, right? So as soon as the government started enforcing restrictions or movement restrictions, we took a very big hit. But at the same time, we were busy creating our super app, right? So we were busy with our food business, we were busy with our delivery business, and we've seen what you're saying, right? People did not want to go out; they want to order stuff in, right? And if we were fast enough, we would capture that opportunity. And we do believe in many markets that we are in that we were fast enough to capture that opportunity.
So you mentioned about super app, right? Tell us more about it. It's how does it work? When does it come? Is any plans for that to be launched into Pakistan
Sure.
in near future?
Yeah, so I'm originally based in UAE, so I feel like this is the first home of the Careem Super App. So let me give you a glimpse of what you can do there. So there you can order a car, you can order a taxi, you can order food from like more than 10,000 restaurants, right? You can order groceries, whether from different supermarkets or grocery shops, or you can order through the Careem dark store. And you can order through Careem Quick within 15 minutes, right? And then you can actually rent a bike, not the motorbike, the bicycle, right? You can rent a bicycle and use it. You can pay for your utility bills. You can transfer money from one person to another by only using his number. And you can link that account, the Careem wallet, to your bank account if you want. And you can transfer that fund into your account. So there are many, many things that we are creating today in the UAE that we would love to expand into other markets. And in order for that to happen, the core business has to have enough frequency. At the same time, we do have to make sure that we're offering a super reliable service. Because if and that's the problem with super app, right? In order for you to have a great super app, you need to be offering great service in each vertical. Otherwise, it becomes very hard for you to actually retain users in your super app. Because a bad experience in food means that the customer most probably will churn from the platform, even if you're doing a great job in rides.
Right. So is Careem Quick is it Dash with Super App, or is it different, or you have separate plans for launching Careem Quick?
So Careem Quick is our first entry to dark stores. This is the first time that we tried to do dark stores, right? And we've started with 2 locations in Dubai, and hopefully we'll expand very quickly and rapidly to different locations in UAE and different markets as well.
Right. Great. All right. And other than that, how do you see the ride-hailing market globally or regionally in upcoming years? Where do you see this going?
Yeah. So at the beginning of COVID, and we knew that was what's going to happen, but I think no one actually understood how the gravity of the issue, right? So a lot of people churned from the as captains actually stopped working because for the past 2 years, given all of the restrictions that were there and all of the lack of demand in all of the platforms, not only Careem, a lot of captains went and tried to find different opportunities, right? And now that people are feeling a bit more comfortable going out, you see that this demand is actually growing organically. So there's no shortage of demand. And you see this in every single industry, right? Every single industry, it has bounced back as a V-shaped recovery, right? It was here, it went down, then it went bouncing back. And now a lot of companies are struggling with the supply chain, with their supply, right? We need more captains at ASAP in order for us to cover all of these demand, right? Other manufacturer companies as well, same. They're looking at this and say like, we can't manufacture these things fast enough. I've heard that Tesla actually suspended some like sales outside of the US just to be able to basically keep up with the demand there. Uh, that's the that's the biggest challenge right now for a lot of companies is how do you scale your supply in order for you to catch up with the demand. And it's a good problem to have, to be honest. It's always a good problem to have when you have demand and you just need to fulfill it.
So Ibrahim, we have this is challenge of urban transport in Pakistan, and I'm sure you're keeping a tap on Pakistani markets. You're familiar with the constitution and the history as well.
Yeah.
While many countries in Asia Pacific and in Europe and
Yeah.
Americas of the world they developed the mass transit system in
Yes.
some 50 years back, right, when it was easier to acquire the prime property, right?
Yes.
Now it's very if you're trying to build a mass transit system now in these countries where they don't exist, they have to pass through the prime property. Prime properties are now very expensive.
Yeah.
They're hard to acquire, in the more congested, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So there's this challenge, right? And so, do you think ride-hailing companies like Careem and similar companies Do you think this is they are the right way to solve this problem? What are your views about that?
Yeah. So look, by the way, this was a discussion we had with like one of the governments in the region, in the MENA region, and the argument is that you cannot use the ways of the past in order for you to solve, given what you know today, with what technology can do. Nowadays, rather than you creating like a static uh, metro line, you can actually create a dynamic bus lane, right? Like that moves based on the demand of the people, based on the needs of the people in the city. You might have like a busy route, and that's great, but like some routes like keep on changing back and forth, right? In order for it to keep up with what people need. Look, technology today is like at a state where it can actually it's magical, right? Who would have thought that you can click on a button and get a car, right? That was like I remember my first interaction with basically Careem and the Ubers of the world. Like I always felt it had this wow factor, right? Like you click on a button and you're like, wow, like, there's a man or a lady in a car waiting for me outside to like ride, right? And I feel like that wow factor slowly we became used to it, right? Now we're like almost demanding it. Like why you're not there in 5 minutes? And there are many solutions that out there that can actually accommodate for the lack of that infrastructure. And I would actually even argue, right? Even if the real estate is actually cheap, I still don't believe that that's the right approach to go after, right? I feel like right now with technology, you can actually become a bit more personalized. You can work around the needs of the people, and the needs of the people actually change with time. And building something that is so rigid and static as a metro line, it actually maybe sometimes counterproductive.
Great, thank you. And given the transport challenges of Pakistan, which I mentioned, and how important is the Pakistan's market to Kareem? It's something that we would all like to know. What's the importance in the global and regional context?
Yeah, very important. Pakistan is a market that we are super proud of. We often discuss Pakistan. We are proud of what we have achieved in Pakistan. We are proud of what our ex-colleagues are actually achieving also in Pakistan. It's great what's happening today with the economy. And with all humbleness, I feel like Kareem played a role in that, but also like a lot of great entrepreneurs worked very, very hard to reach that, right? So I was just reading this report or article a few days ago, $351 million invested in Pakistani startups. That's like very, very impressive, right? That seems like the start of a very important era in the Pakistani ecosystem. So for us, it's very important that Pakistan keeps thriving. Right now, unfortunately, due to a lot of additional demand, lack of supply, we are going through some challenges, but we are working very, very hard to solve these reliability challenges in Pakistan.
Right, great. So now my second part of this discussion, I would like to focus. The first part was mainly green and the global market, regional market, but now my I was focused more towards startups and your view about startups. So to begin with, let's begin with a very simple question because
Sure.
you've done startup yourself as well.
Yes.
So and you meet a lot of startups. So what is the X factor that you look for in startups? Anything that which maybe a thing or two
Yeah.
that
So yeah, I think it's multiple things to be honest. And to be honest, it's simple. Like I don't want to complicate things, right? It's like mostly people. If you have good people, good vision, hard workers, have the skills already to learn the skills that is required to succeed. A lot of these things come to place, right? Number two becomes the idea. Is the idea scalable enough? Is it in the right market? Is it in the right time? And I'll tell you a small story. Back in 2012, no, actually 2009, I had an on-demand delivery service. I had an on-demand delivery service. You know why it failed? Because people did not want to pay for delivery charges. Imagine back then, people said like no for delivery charges. Like we get delivery for free. Why would we pay for a premium service? Now people are ready to pay for a premium service. Just get me my food ASAP, right? So sometimes having a great idea at the wrong time means like it's gonna fail, right? So the idea itself is very important. Having the product market fit is quite critical. And something that I often find like very successful companies or startups do is that when they're so in touch with the elements on the ground, their customers, their captains, their supply, their colleagues, if you're like in touch with them, you know what's going around, and you're like on top of things, right? Things also come in order and help you succeed. A lot of companies, in order for them to succeed, they have to be super customer centric. You need to know like who's your top customers, like what do they like, why are they using you, and if you don't know these things, like start doing it as soon as possible, because at the end of the day, you're not creating a non-for-profit organization, right? Like with all due respect to non-profits, like you have to find a sustainable way of actually being able to sustain your company. Uh, and having the customer lens is super critical for you to actually remain in business.
Right, great. So, and I'm sure you've met a lot of startups over the years.
Yeah.
So, any startup in particular that stood out of you for its creativeness, or maybe for any other quality except your startup, of course. Any
No,
other
no, my
start.
startups failed miserably. Don't get me
A
wrong.
lot of them do, right? So
Uh,
that's okay. So any startup you would like to share with us any particular names and why they stood out for you for us to maybe get some inspiration.
yeah. So look, I feel it might be a bit cliche, but I'm gonna say Careem, and I'll tell you guys why. Right? So you know, when everyone was discussing minor topics in the ecosystem, like Mudassar was talking about, like how can we become a $1 billion company? When people were barely like getting like a valuation of like 10 or 20 million, right? This guy was like talking about like how can we become a unicorn? And a unicorn is not a matter of money. Like trust me, it's not about like we want to have like $1 billion. No, it's not. It's like a mark of like like if you succeed, if you do enough transactions, if you get enough customers, you solve enough problems in this region and inspire more people, then you'll get to that point, right? And that was one of the measuring tools. But that was very inspiring to me, to be honest. You know, a company should definitely be should look beyond its basically only financial goals. Like when we've started Kareem, we said like we want to create a and like a platform to create like to solve for massive problems that we're facing in the region, right? And we wanted to create an institute, not a company, an institute that basically inspires. And that institute is like will outlive its founders. That's the aspiration. And until today, that's the aspiration as well, right? Today, I'm seeing a lot of our like second and third generation start like moving up the ranks. And they're starting to take on like very critical business units at Career. And I feel like very happy, right? Some people will feel like, okay, man, like they're coming closer to my job. No, 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 not at all. I feel actually proud. I feel like, okay, now we're talking. This company will outlive us and will be able to actually create a great example that can inspire a lot of entrepreneurs. Man, the old me would have said, like, of course, like, give me the money, like, the lower number of customers, the better, right? And then, I've done three startups, and these three startups actually were based on that. Like, basically, they were catering for a niche. And I'm not saying this is wrong or this is right. they're both right, or like, to be honest, like you can go after this or after this. But I've seen what happens when you go after the masses. And even if you're taking a penny from each, it's massive, right? Like the impact that you create for people is just great. So I really want to push you guys to start thinking of like, how can you solve for like a massive problem versus a niche. A niche is great, but like you only live once, right? Try to create something like that impact a lot of people and solves a big problem. Someone was showing me the X-ray startup that looks after X-ray and actually starts like detecting and helping doctors. And that's massive, right? That's impact is big, and basically that thing can scale globally and can help many people, whether doctors or patients. That should be the
And anything that you found different in Pakistani startups? I think that's different from maybe other regions or globally, any trade or any maybe. Uh,
in general, and not that I'm very exposed to, but I found that they're very hard workers, right? And I found that the opportunity in Pakistan is still untapped, right? Like there's a lot of opportunities that you can actually like tap into and create like a massive opportunity for yourself and impact the lives of many people, right? Pakistan is very similar to my home country, Jordan, and I've been around in the region, as you can imagine. I've been to Egypt, been to Sudan, been to Palestine. I've been around. I've been to Iraq. Like it's unfortunate. Like a lot of us struggle on day-to-day basis to get the basic needs right. In my home country, Jordan, in order for us to have running water, we have to always order a water tanker, right? And it's not convenient, but that's how life is, right? And I'm assuming some of these elements are available, like here in Pakistan as well. So with this, we've all learned as people to become resilient, right? The first time I went to Lahore, they were telling me like, yeah, by the way, we have like smog and we have like the COVID, and yeah, by the way, we have dengue as well. So like, okay, wow, like the average Lahori goes through all of these elements, and like I haven't heard a single person complain, right? I haven't heard a single person complain. So it's just amazing how resilient people become, right? Maybe numb, but like also resilient. And now they're trying and they're like basically building startups that are scaling and making us all proud in the region. One thing that I believe Careem has made or Careem has done is that it got Pakistan closer to the Middle East. We've never thought of like, okay, Middle East, Pakistan, like the mix wasn't there, right? But now I've seen, like my friend started an educational company called Abwab. They actually recently acquired a company in Pakistan, and they actually expanded to Pakistan. A Jordanian startup expanded to Pakistan. That became a thing, right? So now it's like back in the days they tried to do MENA plus Turkey. Now like it's MENA Pakistan.
Yes. Certainly,
Yeah.
a round of applause. Yeah, definitely. Certainly, we're a very resilient nation. We've been through a lot. We stuck together, and we often look for inspiration from other countries, from other regions, but there's a lot of inspiration from within our country as well. And people, I mean, outsiders look for that inspiration from our country, right? So we need to tap into that inspiration as well. Certainly,
Yeah.
great. So I'm now going to open up the floor for a couple of questions, few questions from the audience to begin with. Fahad, you, yeah, Ahmed, sorry.
Thank you, sir. Kareem is doing an amazing job. Uh, Kareem is not only empowering people by just clicking one tab and uh, right is there, but also Kareem is empowering their uh, uh, captain. So when I ever ride with Kareem, I always interview the captain, and they feel more, empowered, that they can earn and they can work when ever they want. And Careem has not only with technology empowered their employees, but also the customers. In Pakistan, we see the literacy rate is low. So most of the population, is it, uh, that are not educated, are unemployed. So this is, you can say, a kind of question or a suggestion. What if the Careem app is translated into Urdu, and also the voice into Urdu, so that the people who can't read or understand English, they can also, you can become a Careem captain. And also people who like there is a vast majority of people who don't know how to use Android phone or use the app. Careem could, uh, 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 run a campaign to literate people, so that that is like a CSR, and like Careem will be giving more employment opportunities to people who are not skillful. So any comment on that?
Yeah, thank you. So on the Urdu app, great suggestion. I'm sure at some point we had it. I'm not sure if we don't have it, but let me check. It's a great suggestion. Definitely, we do have an Arabic app. We do have a English app. We even have a Kurdish app in like Erbil in Iraq. So yeah, of course, we should have an Urdu app, ideally. On on your second part of your question, uh, and Haris here is from market looking after marketing in Pakistan. You know, a lot of the things that we do is actually educate users. It's just not only like use Careem. Like sometimes it's like there's this honeymoon program that we actually use in order for us to actually graduate users from one point to another. We actively keep sending comms in order for us to be able to show them the way, educate them on how to use it. And back in the days, we used to offer booking through the call center, although it was super expensive to do it through voice. In some other countries, we've actually started uh, mapping locations or main attractions, and basically, if you send an SMS to a certain number, we dispatch a car automatically to you to that location, right? Without you having to have even an app. We tried different solutions, and we'll keep trying. But like I'm very proud of a lot of people through their not a lot of people are actually exposed to apps, but I've seen it, and I've seen it firsthand. Right? I've seen my mother, I've seen like my aunt. They're actually using it, and they don't actually interact much with apps, right? But they've learned how to use it out of necessity and need sometimes, which is great.
Is it one more thing, like uh, when you talk to a person in a foreign language, or in a second language, you talk to the mind. Uh, when you talk to a person in the in the mother language, that touches the heart. So, like if the app is in Urdu, I think there will be more users, and they will more connected emotion.
Completely aligned. I'm
Careem.
aligned with you.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is a very good suggestion. So
Yeah.
and maybe this can you can take it back
Sure.
with your team as well, and it's something this will very language and
Great
mother tongue is
suggestion,
it's a national language is a matter of great pride for us as well, right? So yeah.
One quick funny story. Usually, when they look at ATMs, there's always like two options, right? Urdu and English. They've discovered that most people, when it comes to money, they use their native language, right? When it's a matter of money, like you choose Urdu. You don't do English, Urdu, or Arabic, right? For me.
You don't take risk on that.
Yeah, there's no, we don't take chances.
Yeah.
Not with money.
Yeah. And Gigi, please.
Yes, sir.
First, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum
Everyone.
salam.
First of all, thank you NIC for arranging this session. And my name is Mohammad Zeeshan Shahid. I'm performing my duty as a head of sales and PR, the Career Class personal development platform. And I'm also running my own startup since 2018. My people start their startup and they have clearly in vision and goal in his mind, and step and result in his mind. But the one thing is missing is commit to the process and love to the process. And I continuously observe this in my surrounding, and after sometimes they fed up and switch their job and switch their startup.
Yes.
So as per your experience, I want to learn the suggestion and tips how they commit their process and they love the process instead of they clearly find their goal and how they commit to the process.
By the way, excellent question. Excellent question. Because
Thank you.
this actually defines the real entrepreneur from the occasional entrepreneur. What happens, and this is like a fact, right? And I've seen a graph. So, whenever you think about something new and something exciting, you're excited. Your self-esteem is like high, right? You love the feeling. It's a great feeling of starting something new, or starting a new relationship, or like anything new, right? But then when you're at the peak, startups are very hard. I told you, like I've actually spent my 20s broke, completely broke, right? So you do have to wake up every single morning, although you don't want to get out of bed. You hate like the process, the challenges, and all of these things, but you have to have persistence, right? In order for you to break those walls and continue. And a lot of people, when they do that, that feeling of like happiness just fades away, right? And in order for them to have it again, what do? They actually start thinking about a new startup. Like the first one failed, right? They haven't even started. First one failed. Let me start the second one. So they then get temporarily satisfaction again. They keep on doing that. That's the occasional entrepreneur. The real entrepreneur understands that it's a crappy journey. It's not an easy journey. I actually don't recommend it to people when someone comes to me and say like, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. So like, man, like if you're not really serious about it, don't do it. Don't do it. It's just like a waste of your time and money. If you're willing to commit, if you're willing to miss a lot of major events in your life, if you're willing to sleep for a couple of hours every single day, if you're willing to work very, 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 very hard, then yeah, do it. Otherwise, don't do it. Because, don't get me wrong, there are a few joyful moments in this journey. And actually, if you make it, it's going to be a wonderful thing. But remember, 90% of people fail during that process. And 10% actually succeed. And that's a fact, right? Regardless where, Pakistan, Jordan, globally. But we all aspire to be part of that 10%. And that's the dream. And that's why we work very, very hard. And I've seen many entrepreneurs, they're so persistent until they make it happen. And if you really want to make it happen, persistence is a big, like you were telling me about what's the mojo, maybe persistent is one of the most important traits that you need to have in order for you to make it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right, so I mean, this discussion is going wonderfully well, but unfortunately, we've run out of time, and of course, Ibrahim has other engagements as well. So, just going to conclude that with the last any other parting advice that you would want to, any other thing that you want to tell startups.
Yeah, guys, you're the future stars of Pakistan. Make everyone here in the room proud. Make your parents proud. Make your friends proud. You're going to take a lot of sacrifices. Make it worth it, right? So work very, very hard in order for you to make it worth it. We are here as Careem to support. If there's anything that we can help with, please reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm very active. Send me a message, and inshallah I'll respond. And I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Haris, for arranging this. Thank you, Salman, for facilitating this. And thank you all for coming over here. Have a great day.